The Galactic Council chamber stretched across 300 meters of polished stone and metal. Representatives from 47 species sat in their designated sections, discussing trade agreements and resource distribution like they did every week. Ambassador Richard Coleman sat in the human section, reviewing data on his tablet while his aide, Lieutenant Karen Price, whispered updates about upcoming votes. Coleman had served as Earth's primary representative for 8 years. He knew the patterns of council politics. The Thalorians always voted with the Quellan. The Valorians pushed for military expansion. The smaller species formed temporary alliances to protect their interests. It was predictable, usually boring, and mostly harmless. Chancellor Vex, a tall Thalorian with silver skin and 4 arms, called for the next agenda item. The chamber's translation system converted his clicking language into something every species could understand. He wanted to discuss expanding the hyperspace relay network into the Outer Rim territories. Several representatives began arguing about costs and benefits. Karen leaned closer to Coleman. "Sir, we have an incoming priority signal from Meridian 7. Coleman frowned. Meridian 7 was a human colony world on the edge of council space. Population around 15,000. Mostly families who wanted quiet lives away from Earth's crowded cities. They grew crops, raised children, and caused no trouble for anyone. "Put it through," Coleman said. The signal was audio only, breaking with static. A woman's voice came through, high and panicked. "This is Governor Lisa Martin, on Meridian 7. We are under attack. Repeat. We are under attack. Valorian warships entered orbit 30 minutes ago. They are firing on the surface. The school settlement is gone. Oh God. The children. Please. We need help. We need..." The signal cut to static, then silence. Coleman stood up so fast his chair fell backward. The sound echoed through the chamber. Every alien head turned toward him. "Chancellor Vex," Coleman said, his voice hard. "I am invoking emergency protocol. I need to address the council immediately." Vex's large eyes blinked slowly. "Ambassador Coleman, we are in the middle of..." "Now," Coleman said. Something in his tone made Vex pause. The Thalorian clicked his mandibles together. A sign of concern. "Very well. The council recognizes Ambassador Coleman of Earth." Coleman walked to the central speaking platform. Karen followed, her face pale. She had family on Meridian 7. A sister. And 2 nieces. "Meridian 7, a human colony world, is under attack by Valorian forces," Coleman said, his voice carried to every corner of the chamber. "Preliminary reports indicate they are firing on civilian targets. A school settlement has been destroyed. We are talking about children. I am requesting immediate council intervention under the Protection of Sovereign Territory Act." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Commander Zalth, the Valorian representative, stood up. His species looked like armored insects, with thick exoskeletons and sharp mandibles. "The territory in question is disputed. Meridian 7 sits in a zone that rightfully belongs to the Valorian Empire." "That is a lie," Coleman said. He pulled up a holographic display showing star charts. Meridian 7 was established 52 years ago. The Valorians made no territorial claim until 6 months ago. The colony predates any Valorian presence in that sector by decades. Zalth clicked his mandibles. "Previous claims do not supersede natural territorial rights. The Valorians evolved closer to that space. It belongs to us." Coleman stared at the insectoid alien. "You are murdering civilians. You bombed a school. Acceptable losses in asserting sovereign control," Zalth said. The chamber erupted into arguments. Some species shouted support for investigating the attack. Others urged caution and diplomatic process. The Valorians had powerful allies, species that benefited from their military protection and trade agreements. Chancellor Vex raised all 4 arms, calling for order. "The Council will vote on forming an investigative committee to examine the situation on Meridian 7. An investigative committee." Coleman's voice was dangerously quiet. "People are dying right now. My people. We must follow proper procedures, Vex said. The Council cannot act rashly based on incomplete information. Coleman looked around the chamber. He saw species that humanity had helped for 3 decades. When the Quellan faced a plague, human doctors found the cure. When pirates threatened the outer colonies, human peacekeepers stopped them. When the hyperspace relay network needed upgrading, human engineers designed the new systems. And now, when humans needed help, the Council wanted to form a committee. I am calling for an immediate vote on military intervention, Coleman said. Vex's skin darkened, a sign of stress. Ambassador, that is not how this works. We need time to verify the claims, to understand both sides of the situation. Both sides? Coleman's hands clenched into fists. There are no 2 sides to bombing children. The vote happened anyway. Coleman watched the display as the results came in. 47 species in the Council. 12 voted for immediate intervention. 30 voted for the investigative committee. 5 abstained. Karen's tablet chimed. She looked at it, and her face crumpled. She showed Coleman the screen. Updated casualty reports from Meridian 7. 3,200 confirmed dead. The Valorian fleet was still in orbit, still firing. Coleman took a long breath. When he spoke again, his voice was calm. Too calm. I see. The Council has made its position clear. He walked back to the human section and gathered his things. Karen followed, wiping tears from her face. Where are you going? Vex asked. We still have agenda items to discuss. Coleman stopped at the chamber exit. He turned to face the Council. I am giving you 48 hours. 48 hours to deliver justice for what happened on Meridian 7. 48 hours to show that this Council values innocent lives more than political convenience. And if we do not meet your demands, Vex asked, then humanity will reconsider every treaty, every agreement, and every partnership we have with the Galactic Council. Coleman said. 48 hours, Chancellor. I suggest you use them wisely. He left the chamber. Behind him, he heard laughter. The Quellan representative said something about humans being emotional and dramatic. Zalth made a comment about inferior species making threats they could not back up. Karen walked beside Coleman through the station corridors. Sir, do you really think they will listen? Coleman did not answer for a long moment. They reached their quarters, and he sealed the door behind them. Only then did he speak. No, he said. I do not think they will listen. Which is why you need to send a message to Earth. Priority Alpha. Tell them to begin Protocol Exodus. Karen's eyes widened. Sir, that is the complete withdrawal sequence. Every human in Council space. Every treaty terminated. Are you certain? Coleman looked at his aide. My niece taught at that school on Meridian 7. She wanted to help colony children learn about Earth's history. She was 26 years old. Anamon. He sat down heavily. Send the message, Karen. 48 hours from now, if the Council has not acted, I want every human out of their space. We are done bleeding for species who will not stand with us when it matters. Karen sent the message. On Earth, alarms began to sound in government buildings. Ships started preparing for emergency departures. Engineers began locking down access codes to human-built systems. The 48-hour countdown had begun, and the Galactic Council had no idea how seriously humanity meant every word. 48 hours passed like a slow death. The Galactic Council met again, this time in closed session. They debated the proper response to Meridian 7 for 6 hours, forming subcommittees and drafting proposals for neutral arbitration. Chancellor Vex suggested a 5-year investigation period to fully understand the territorial dispute. The Valorians agreed, confident they could present their case convincingly over that time. When the main council session resumed, Vex called for the human delegation to return to the chamber. He had prepared a statement, offering a compromise. The council would condemn the loss of civilian life while respecting Valorian territorial claims. Both sides would present their cases to a neutral panel. The human seats remained empty. Vex sent a message to Ambassador Coleman's quarters. No response. He tried Coleman's personal communicator. Nothing. Growing concerned, the Chancellor sent security to check the human section of the station. The security team found the quarters cleaned out. Every personal item gone. Every computer wiped. A single message displayed on the main screen. Humanity thanks the Council for 48 hours of inaction. We have learned what your friendship is worth. At that moment, every screen in the Council chamber activated simultaneously. The face of Admiral Patricia Hayes appeared, broadcasting from Earth's orbital command station. She wore her full dress uniform, medals from 3 decades of service displayed across her chest. To all species of the Galactic Council, Hayes said, I am Admiral Patricia Hayes, acting on direct orders from President Daniel Torres and the unified government of Earth. As of this transmission, humanity is withdrawing from all treaties, agreements, and partnerships with the Galactic Council. Effective immediately, chaos erupted in the chamber. Representatives shouted questions at screens that could not hear them. Vex tried to open a return channel, but Earth had already closed all diplomatic frequencies. Hayes continued, her voice hard. All human personnel are hereby recalled from Council space. All technology sharing agreements are terminated. All joint military operations are suspended. All human-maintained systems will be powered down and access codes locked within 24 hours. The Quellan representative, a floating jellyfish-like creature, pulsed with alarm colors. They cannot do this. Our defense grid depends on human technicians. Hayes seemed to hear the comment, though it was impossible. The Council had 48 hours to deliver justice for 3,000 murdered civilians, including 400 children. You chose to form committees instead. You chose politics over principle. Now you will learn to live with that choice. The transmission ended. For 10 seconds, the Council chamber was silent. Then every representative began talking at once, shouting over each other, demanding explanations and solutions. On the medical station orbiting Corvallis Prime, Dr. Stephen Marsh received the recall order. He looked around the emergency center he had built over 12 years. The facility treated patients from 19 different species. They saved lives every day. His hands trembled as he began the shutdown sequence. The Corvallis station administrator rushed in, a 6-legged creature with compound eyes. Dr. Marsh, what are you doing? We have patients in critical care. I have my orders, Marsh said quietly. I am sorry, but they will die without your equipment, without your expertise. Marsh turned to face the administrator. His eyes were red. My daughter was a teacher on Meridian 7. She was 28 years old. She loved children from every species, and your council let the Valorians murder her without consequence. He finished the shutdown, taking the human-designed medical scanners and gene therapy equipment with him. The technology was proprietary, licensed to the station, but owned by Earth. Within an hour, the medical center went dark. 6 patients died before they could be transferred to older, less capable facilities. Engineer Lisa Chen stood on the command deck of the Defense Satellite Network, protecting the Quellan home system. 300 satellites, all designed and maintained by human teams. She entered her command codes and began the lockout procedure. You are condemning us, the Quellan defense coordinator said. The Valorians have been threatening our borders for months. Chen did not look at him. She thought about her cousin who died on Meridian 7. A farmer who grew hybrid crops that could feed both humans and aliens. He believed in cooperation between species. The council proved him wrong. You had a chance to stand up to the Valorians, Chen said. You voted for a committee instead. The satellites went dark one by one. The Quellan system, protected for 30 years by human technology, was now defenseless. Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out. Human peacekeepers abandoned their posts on disputed border worlds. Human agricultural advisors shut down the vertical farms, feeding billions on resource-poor planets. Human teachers left schools where they had educated alien children. Human diplomats packed their belongings and headed home. The hyperspace relay network began to fail. Humans had designed the current system, upgrading it from the old council technology. Without human maintenance teams, power fluctuations started cascading through the network. Within 6 hours, 40% of the relays were operating at reduced capacity, or offline completely. Ships traveling between systems found themselves stranded as relay points went dark. Trade routes that took days now took weeks, using older, slower methods. The galactic economy, built on the assumption of instant communication and fast travel, began to collapse. Chancellor Vex finally managed to bypass the closed diplomatic channels. He sent a message directly to Earth's government, addressed to President Daniel Torres personally. The message was desperate, offering immediate concessions, promising to revisit the Meridian 7 situation, begging for humanity to reconsider. President Torres responded 12 hours later. His message was broadcast on every open frequency, ensuring the entire galaxy heard it. Chancellor Vex and members of the Galactic Council, Torres said. He sat in the Oval Office, looking directly into the camera. You had a simple choice. Stand for justice or stand for politics. You chose politics. You chose to let the murder of children go unanswered because it was diplomatically convenient. Torres leaned forward. Let me be clear. This is not a negotiating tactic. This is not leverage for better treaty terms. This is a complete and permanent withdrawal from partnership with any government that tolerates the murder of innocents. You revealed your true values. We cannot unhear what you said in that chamber. We cannot unsee how you voted. We cannot unsee how you voted. The president stood. Humanity will survive without the council. We have our own worlds, our own resources, our own strength. The question you should ask yourselves is whether you can survive without us, because starting now, you are going to find out. The transmission ended. In the council chamber, representatives stared at their displays, showing supply chain failures, system defense warnings, and economic collapse projections. The Quellan representative calculated they had 6 months of food reserves before starvation became a problem. The Thalorian delegate realized their entire medical infrastructure was built on human technology they could not replicate. The Valorian commander Zolf clicked his mandibles in what might have been satisfaction. Good. Let the humans run home. We do not need them. The Valorian Empire is stronger than ever. Other representatives looked at him with something close to hate. But they said nothing. They had chosen not to oppose the Valorians over Meridian 7. Now it was too late. Chancellor Vex slumped in his seat, all 4 arms hanging limp. He watched damage reports scroll across his screen. 3 decades of building galactic cooperation, gone in 48 hours, and it was the Council's own fault. A junior Thalorian aide approached him. Chancellor, we are receiving reports of system failures across the network. Life support on this station is degrading. The human maintenance crews left detailed shutdown procedures, but our teams do not understand half the systems. How long do we have? Vex asked. Maybe a week, sir. Maybe less. Vex looked around the great chamber. It had stood for 3 centuries, a symbol of species working together. Now the lights flickered, the air tasted stale, and the dream was dying. He made a decision. Evacuate the station. Order all council representatives to return to their homeworlds. Sir, if we abandon the council station, the council is already dead, Vex said. We killed it when we chose convenience over courage. The evacuation began. Within 2 days, the council station that had been the center of galactic government sat empty and dark. Human-built systems failed one after another. The grand chamber where species once debated the future fell silent. And across the galaxy, in the darkness where humans once brought light, species began to understand the true cost of their choices. 2 weeks after humanity's withdrawal, the galaxy was burning, not with literal fire, though there was plenty of that. It burned with the slow realization that the foundation of galactic civilization had been built on human labor, human innovation, and human peacekeeping. The economic collapse came first. Trade ships that relied on the hyperspace relay network found themselves traveling at quarter speed through degraded relay points. A journey that took 2 days now took 8. Goods spoiled in transit. Contracts went unfulfilled. Businesses that operated on tight margins failed within days. The Thalorian Conclave, one of the wealthiest council species, watched their economy shrink by 30% in the first week. Their stock markets crashed as investors realized that supply chains built over decades were simply gone. Food imports from human agricultural colonies stopped. Medicine that depended on human pharmaceutical research ran out. Chancellor Vex sat in his private residence on the Thalorian homeworld, reviewing reports he wished he did not have to read. Hospitals reporting shortages of critical supplies. Factories unable to get raw materials. Cities experiencing power outages because the energy grid, upgraded by human engineers, was failing, and no one knew how to fix it properly. His communication terminal chimed. A priority message from the Quellan home system. Vex opened it with a sense of dread. The Quellan defense coordinator appeared, his gelatinous body pulsing with distress colors. Chancellor, the Valorians have launched an attack on our outer colonies. Without the defense satellites, we cannot stop them. We need help. I will convene what remains of the council, Vex said, though he knew it was useless. The council had no military force. They had always relied on human peacekeepers to enforce their decisions. There is more, the coordinator said. They are not just conquering territory. They are broadcasting executions of prisoners. They want the galaxy to see what happens when you oppose them. Vex closed the channel and buried his face in his upper hands. This was what the Council had created. By refusing to stop the Valorians at Meridian 7, they had shown every aggressive species in the galaxy that might made right, that the Council would not defend the weak. The Valorian Empire wasted no time exploiting the power vacuum. Commander Zolth, celebrated as a hero among his people for the Meridian 7 conquest, led fleets against 3 neighboring systems. The species there begged the Council for help, but the Council had no help to give. On Earth, Intelligence Officer Michelle Barnes sat in a secure facility, monitoring galactic communications. Her team had maintained listening posts in Council space, hidden and automated. They heard everything. Admiral Hayes needs to see this, Barnes said to her supervisor, forwarding the latest intercepts. The Valorians just hit the Trell system, civilian casualties in the millions. They are not even trying to hide it anymore. Her supervisor, a grizzled veteran named Commander Paul Griffin, shook his head. Send it up the chain, but you know what the answer will be. We are out. We do not bleed for species that would not bleed for us. Barnes understood, but it still hurt. She had friends among the Trell. Good people who had nothing to do with the Council's decision on Meridian 7. The Council tried to respond. They voted unanimously to condemn the Valorian Empire and strip them of Council membership. They imposed economic sanctions. They sent strongly worded messages demanding the Valorians cease their aggression. The Valorians laughed. Commander Zalth gave a speech broadcast across all Council frequencies. The old Council is dead. The humans have abandoned you. We will create a new order, based on strength and natural hierarchy. Those who submit will be spared. Those who resist will be eliminated. Chancellor Vex sent the Council's condemnation to Earth, along with a desperate message. Please, we made a mistake. We understand that now. But innocent species are dying. We need your help. President Torres responded within an hour. The message was brief and cold. You had the power to stop this 2 weeks ago. You chose not to. Now you face the consequences. Do not ask us to fix problems you created. Vex tried again, sending delegations to Earth's solar system. They were turned away at the outer defense perimeter. Captain Richard Foster of Earth's home fleet delivered the message personally over open channels. You are not welcome in human space. Return to your worlds. If you approach Earth again without permission, you will be fired upon. The delegations retreated. Several representatives tried to negotiate, offering everything from trade deals to territorial concessions. Earth refused every offer. The message was clear. There would be no second chances. Meanwhile, the galaxy continued to fracture. Without human peacekeepers maintaining borders and mediating disputes, old tensions erupted into violence. The Zentari claimed that the Polk system rightfully belonged to them. The Polk disagreed. War broke out within hours. The Corvan Confederacy discovered that their neighbors, the Millian hierarchy, had been stealing resources from disputed asteroid fields for years. Human auditors had kept both sides honest. Without that oversight, accusations led to fleet movements, which led to the first shots fired. Within 2 weeks, 15 separate conflicts raged across former Council space. Small wars that would have been prevented by a single human peacekeeping ship escalated into full military engagements. The death toll climbed into the hundreds of millions. On Corvallis Prime, the medical station Dr. Marsh had abandoned struggled to handle casualties from the nearby conflicts. Their outdated equipment failed regularly. Doctors trained on human medical technology found themselves working with tools that were 50 years behind what they knew. One of Marsh's former colleagues, a Corvallis surgeon named Tellman, sent a message to Earth. It was not an official communication, just a personal plea. "Stephen, I know why you left. I know the Council failed you. But patients are dying. Children are dying. Not because of politics, but because we do not have the knowledge you brought us. Please." Marsh received the message on Earth. He sat in his house in Colorado, surrounded by mountains, trying to find peace. His daughter was buried on Meridian 7. He had not been allowed to attend the funeral because Valorian forces still occupied the colony. He deleted Tellman's message without responding. The Council, or what remained of it, held one final emergency session. Representatives from 12 species gathered via secured channels. Since the Council station was still abandoned and dark, Chancellor Vex addressed them. "We face a choice. We can continue as we are, watching our civilization collapse, or we can change. Fundamentally change." The Quellan representative pulsed weakly. Half their colonies were under Valorian occupation. "What do you propose?" "We create something new," Vex said. "Not a request for the humans to return to the old system. An offer to build a new system, with new rules. Rules that put justice before politics. Rules that give every species, even humans, the power to hold the rest accountable." "The humans will not listen," the Trell representative said. Her homeworld had been bombed 3 days earlier. "We betrayed them. Why would they trust us again?" "They will not trust us," Vex agreed. "But they might trust actions. We must prove, through deeds, not words, that we have learned what they tried to teach us." Over the next week, a coalition formed. 12 species committed to a new charter. It included provisions that seemed radical. Mandatory military intervention against attacks on civilians, regardless of the aggressor's power. Permanent oversight positions for any species that helped establish the new alliance, including veto power over any decision. Complete transparency in all deliberations. It was everything the old Council had refused to be. They sent the proposal to Earth, not as a demand, not as a negotiation, but as a statement of intent. "We will become better, with or without you. But we hope that someday, you will see that we learned from our failure." President Torres read the proposal with his cabinet. Admiral Hayes argued against any engagement. "It is a trick. They want us to do their fighting for them." But Secretary of State Helen Crawford disagreed. "Maybe, or maybe they finally understand. Either way, we should respond. We do not have to help them, but we can acknowledge that at least some species are trying to be better." Torres made his decision. He drafted a response himself, short and direct. "Earth will not rejoin any council. Earth will not send military forces to fight your battles. But Earth will watch. If your coalition proves through sustained action that you value justice over convenience, we will consider limited cooperation on humanitarian grounds. Prove yourselves worthy of trust. One decision at a time." It was not forgiveness. It was not friendship. But it was not complete rejection either. Chancellor Vex received the message and allowed himself the smallest hope. The galaxy was burning. Civilization was collapsing. And millions were dead. But perhaps, in the ashes, something better could be built, if they survived long enough to try. 3 months after humanity walked away, the galaxy had become unrecognizable. The council that once governed 47 species was gone, dissolved officially 6 weeks earlier, when the remaining members admitted they could not function. In its place, chaos reigned. 6 major wars burned across former Council space. The Valorian Empire had conquered 9 systems, their forces brutal and efficient. Other conflicts erupted over resources, old grievances, and simple survival. Species that had coexisted peacefully for generations now fought over food, water, and energy. On Earth, Dr. Stephen Marsh tried not to watch the news feeds from Corvallis Prime. He tried not to think about the hospital he built, now closed due to equipment failures. He tried not to count how many lives could have been saved if he were still there. His wife found him in his study, staring at a blank screen. "Stephen, you need to sleep. The children's wing had 62 patients when I left," he said quietly. "According to the last reports I saw, 41 of them died. Diseases we could have cured easily. Injuries we could have treated. But the equipment is broken, and no one knows how to fix it. That is not your fault, is it not?" Marsh looked at his wife. "I built that hospital. I trained those doctors. And I left them. They killed our daughter." "The Valorians killed our daughter," Marsh corrected. "Not the Corvallis patients. Not the children dying in a hospital I abandoned." His wife had no answer for that. Neither did Marsh. Across the galaxy, the Valorian Empire celebrated its conquests. Commander Zalth was no longer just a military leader. He had declared himself supreme leader of the new Valorian order. In his speeches, broadcast to all occupied territories, he spoke of natural hierarchy and survival of the strongest. The humans were weak, Zalth told crowds of cheering Valorians. They spoke of justice and mercy. But these are the words of inferior species. The galaxy belongs to the strong. We will take what is ours by right of conquest. The occupied populations lived in terror. Zalth made examples of anyone who resisted. Public executions were common. Entire cities were destroyed to prove a point. The Valorians did not just want territory, they wanted submission. The coalition of 12 species that had formed after the Council's collapse struggled to hold themselves together. Chancellor Vex, now representing the Thalorian conclave in this new alliance, worked 18-hour days trying to coordinate defense and distribute dwindling resources. But they were losing. The coalition had no unified military command. They had no enforcement mechanism for their agreements. They had noble intentions and nothing to back them up. During one particularly difficult session, the Trell representative collapsed from exhaustion. Her homeworld was under Valorian occupation. Her family was in a prison camp. She had been awake for 3 days trying to organize resistance efforts. "We are failing," she said from the floor, too tired to stand. "We write charters about justice, but we have no power to enforce anything. We are just the old council with prettier words." The session ended early. Vex returned to his quarters and drafted a message he knew would probably be ignored. He sent it to Earth anyway. The message reached President Torres's desk the next morning. Torres read it 3 times, then called his advisors together. "Chancellor Vex is proposing something different," Torres said. "Not asking for military help. Not begging us to rejoin. He is offering something else." Secretary of State Helen Crawford leaned forward. "What is he offering?" "Complete transparency. The coalition will give Earth full access to all their deliberations, all their decisions, all their intelligence. They are asking us to judge them, not participate, just observe and judge. If we see them living up to their principles, we consider limited humanitarian cooperation. If we see them failing, we say nothing, and they know they have failed." Admiral Hayes frowned. "It is still asking for our involvement. It is asking for our oversight," Crawford said. "There is a difference. They want us to be their conscience, knowing we will walk away again if they slip." Torres looked at his advisors. "Thoughts?" Lieutenant Karen Price, now serving as a policy advisor after her service with Ambassador Coleman, spoke up. "Sir, I lost my sister and nieces on Meridian 7. I want the Valorians to pay for what they did. But I also know my sister would not want children on other worlds to die because we refuse to help. Helping them is not our responsibility," Admiral Hayes said. "No," Price agreed. But choosing who we are is our responsibility. Are we the species that stands for justice only when it is convenient? Or are we the species that stands for justice even when we are angry? The room fell silent. Torres thought about the speech he gave 3 months ago, ending every treaty because the Council chose politics over principle. Now the Coalition was asking Earth to hold them to those same principles. Set up observer teams, Torres finally said. Small groups, civilian leadership with military protection. They watch, they report, they have no authority to make decisions. If the Coalition proves they mean what they say in their charter, we consider limited humanitarian aid. Medical supplies, food, infrastructure support. No military intervention, Hayes nodded slowly. And if they fail to live up to their promises, then we leave again, Torres said. And this time, it will be permanent. Over the next 2 weeks, Earth sent observer teams to Coalition worlds. Dr. Marsh was asked to lead the medical assessment team. He refused twice before his wife convinced him to go. You need to see if they deserve help, she said. Not for them. For yourself. So you know you made the right choice. Marsh arrived on Thalorian Prime with a team of 5 human medical professionals. They inspected hospitals, reviewed treatment protocols, and interviewed patients. What they found was disturbing. The Thalorians had implemented his teaching methods perfectly. They followed human medical ethics to the letter, but without proper equipment and updated knowledge, patients still died. Not because of negligence or cruelty, but because the Coalition simply lacked the tools to save everyone. One of Marsh's old students, a Thalorian doctor named Velas, showed him the children's ward. We do everything we can, Velas said. We follow your protocols. We honor your ethics. But it is not enough. Marsh saw children suffering from treatable conditions, a young Thalorian girl with an infection that human antibiotics could cure in days, a Quellan boy with injuries that human surgical tools could repair easily. They would probably die because the Coalition did not have access to the technology Marsh took with him. Why show me this? Marsh asked. Because you need to see that we are trying, Velas said. We are not asking you to come back. We are not asking you to forgive us. We are asking you to witness that we learned what you taught us about caring for the vulnerable, even when we cannot save them all. Marsh filed his report with Earth. It was honest and brutal. The Coalition medical systems were failing. Millions would die without help, but those deaths would not be from cruelty or neglect. The Coalition was trying to uphold human values with insufficient means. Engineer Lisa Chen led a team assessing the Coalition's infrastructure. She found similar results. Systems were failing, but not because the Coalition was incompetent. They simply did not have the knowledge or resources to maintain technology they never fully understood. Each observer team reported back. The Coalition was genuine. They held trials for officials who violated their own charter, convicting and punishing their own leaders. When they failed to meet the standards they set, they shared resources equally, even when it hurt politically. They refused to negotiate with the Valorians. Even when threatened, they were trying to be better, even as they failed and died. President Torres reviewed all the reports in his office. Secretary Crawford sat across from him. They are not perfect, she said. But they are honest. That is more than the old council ever gave us. If we help them, even with humanitarian aid, we are getting involved again, Torres said. Yes, Crawford agreed. But we are involved already. The question is whether we are involved as teachers helping students learn, or as judges watching them fail. Torres made his decision. He would authorize limited humanitarian aid, medical supplies, food shipments, technical advisors for critical infrastructure, no weapons, no military support, no combat troops. But there was a condition. Every shipment would include human observers. Every advisor would report directly to Earth. And the moment the Coalition violated their own principles, the moment they chose politics over justice, every human would leave and never return. The announcement went out to the Coalition. Chancellor Vex received it in a meeting with other Coalition leaders. He read the message aloud, his voice shaking. Earth agrees to provide humanitarian assistance, subject to continued observation and immediate withdrawal if we fail to uphold our stated principles. The room erupted in relief. Not celebration, but exhausted gratitude. This is not forgiveness, Vex reminded them. This is a chance to prove we deserve trust. We must earn this. Every single day. On Earth, Dr. Marsh packed his bags again. He was going back to Corvallis Prime, not to rebuild his hospital, but to train Coalition doctors using equipment Earth would provide. It was not enough to save everyone, but it was better than watching children die when he could help. His wife hugged him before he left. Be careful. And Stephen, remember that helping them does not dishonor her memory. Marsh nodded. He knew his daughter would have wanted him to help. She believed in cooperation between species. The Council had proven her wrong. But maybe the Coalition could prove her right. The galaxy was still burning. The Valorians were still conquering. Millions were still dying. But for the first time in 3 months, there was a small light in the darkness. It was not much. But it was a start. 6 months after humanity ended every treaty with the Galactic Council, the galaxy was divided into 3 distinct zones. In the core systems, species loyal to the old Council ways struggled alone, refusing to admit their mistakes. On the outer rim, the Valorian Empire controlled 9 conquered systems through brutality and fear, and between them, a coalition of 15 species worked desperately to build something better. Chancellor Vex stood in what was left of the Thalorian government building, reviewing reports with grim satisfaction. The coalition had grown by 3 species in the past month, not because they sought protection, though they needed it, but because they believed in the principles the coalition represented. The coalition had also done something unprecedented. They arrested 5 of their own officials for corruption, prosecuting them in open trials with human observers present. One of those officials was Vex's own deputy, caught diverting food supplies for personal profit while coalition citizens went hungry. Vex had ordered the arrest personally. The humans need to see we mean what we say, he told the Trell representative, who had argued for leniency. If we cannot hold ourselves accountable, we do not deserve their help or anyone's trust. The trials were broadcast across all coalition worlds. The guilty were convicted and sentenced to prison terms. No exceptions for rank or political connections. Justice applied equally. Earth's observers reported the trials to President Torres. Major Susan Clark, leading the observation team, included a personal note. Sir, they convicted their own leaders rather than cover up wrongdoing. This is real change, not performance. Torres authorized an increase in humanitarian aid. More medical supplies, more food shipments, technical advisors for critical infrastructure projects. Still no weapons. Still no military support. On Corvallis Prime, Dr. Marsh worked 16-hour days training coalition medical staff. His team had set up a temporary hospital using equipment shipped from Earth. They could not save everyone, but the mortality rate had dropped by 60%. A young Corvallis doctor named Tellman approached Marsh one evening. Doctor, I wanted to thank you. I know coming back here was difficult. It was necessary, Marsh said. He still thought about his daughter every day. The pain had not lessened. But the work helped. We received word today, Tellman continued. The coalition arrested the Thalorian official who delayed the Meridian 7 investigation. He is being prosecuted for dereliction of duty, resulting in mass casualties. Marsh looked up. That will not bring anyone back. No, Tellman agreed. But it shows the coalition remembers, and that they are willing to punish their own failures. Engineer Lisa Chen was working on the Quellan defense grid when the news arrived. The Valorian Empire had issued an ultimatum. Supreme Leader Zalth demanded the coalition surrender within 7 days, or face total war. He specifically threatened to attack the Thalorian homeworld, killing billions. Chancellor Vex called an emergency coalition session. Representatives from 15 species gathered via secure channels, their faces showing fear and determination in equal measure. Zalth believes we are weak, Vex said. He thinks that because we value life and pursue justice, we will surrender rather than fight. I am asking for a vote. Do we submit to tyranny? Or do we stand for our principles? The vote was unanimous. The coalition would fight. Vex immediately contacted Earth's observation teams. Major Clark took the call personally. Chancellor, you understand that Earth will not provide military support. Our mandate is humanitarian only. I understand, Vex said. I am not asking you to fight. I am asking if the coalition, if we choose to defend ourselves against this evil, would still be worthy of your continued cooperation. Clark promised to convey the question to President Torres. On Earth, the cabinet debated through the night. Admiral Hayes argued that any military involvement, even indirect, violated their principles. Secretary Crawford countered that watching the coalition die for standing up to aggressors would also violate their principles. Lieutenant Karen Price offered a compromise. We do not fight. But we could teach. Send military advisors to train coalition forces. Share defensive tactics. Give them the knowledge to defend themselves. But not the weapons. Let them prove their courage. Torres considered the proposal. It was a fine line, but perhaps the right one. He made a call to Admiral Hayes. Patricia, I need you to assemble a team of volunteers. Training mission only. They teach coalition forces how to fight defensively, how to coordinate their fleets. No combat roles. Hayes was silent for a long moment. Sir, if this goes wrong, then we learn we were mistaken about the coalition, Torres said. But I would rather risk being wrong about their worthiness than guarantee we were wrong about our own values. The volunteer team assembled within 48 hours. Captain Richard Foster led the military advisors. Dr. Marsh, already on Corvallis Prime, volunteered to stay and help with medical support for what was coming. Foster met with coalition military commanders on Thalorian Prime. The Quellan Defense Coordinator. The Trell Fleet Admiral. The Corvallis Tactical Officer. 15 species, each with different military traditions, trying to form a unified defense. You have 5 days before Zalth arrives, Foster told them. You cannot match Valorian firepower. You will lose a straight fight. So we do not fight straight. Over the next 4 days, Foster and his team taught coalition forces everything they could: human defensive tactics, coordination protocols, how to use speed and position to offset superior firepower. The coalition forces trained relentlessly, knowing their survival depended on learning fast. On the 7th day, Zalth's fleet arrived at Thalorian Prime. 300 Valorian warships, armed with weapons designed for one purpose: overwhelming destruction. Zalth broadcast to the planet below. This is your last chance. Surrender now, or watch your homeworld burn. Chancellor Vex stood in the Planetary Defense Center, surrounded by coalition commanders and human advisors. He opened a channel to the Valorian fleet. Supreme Leader Zalth, Vex said calmly. 6 months ago, we stood by while you murdered children on Meridian 7. We chose politics over justice. We were wrong. We will not make that mistake again. If you want this world, you will have to take it. Zalth's laughter echoed across the channel. So be it. The battle began. The coalition fleet of 200 ships from 15 different species moved in perfect coordination, using formations Foster had taught them. They did not try to match the Valorians gun for gun. Instead, they used speed and positioning, hitting weak points and retreating before the Valorians could concentrate fire. The Quellan ships provided long-range support. The Trell fighters harassed Valorian formations. The Thalorian heavy cruisers held the center line, absorbing damage while other ships maneuvered. It was not brilliant tactics. It was basic, solid, defensive fighting. But it worked. The Valorian fleet, accustomed to enemies that broke and ran, faced opponents who stood firm and fought smart. Zalth's ships took casualties. Not many, but more than they expected. After 6 hours of fighting, Zalth pulled his forces back. He broadcast one final message. This is not over. I will return with twice the ships and burn your entire coalition to ash. The Valorian fleet jumped to hyperspace, retreating for the first time in 6 months of conquest. In the Planetary Defense Center, exhausted Coalition officers stared at their displays in disbelief. They had lost 40 ships and thousands of lives. But they had survived. More than survived, they had driven off the Valorians. Chancellor Vex turned to Captain Foster. "We could not have done this without your teaching." Foster shook his head. "We just taught you what you already knew. The courage to fight was yours." Earth's observation teams reported the battle to President Torres. The Coalition had fought bravely, defended their principles, and proven they were willing to pay the cost of standing against tyranny. Torres made his final decision. He invited Coalition representatives to Earth for the first formal summit. Not to rejoin the old council. To build something new. The summit took place 2 weeks later in Geneva. Representatives from 15 Coalition species sat alongside human delegates. President Torres opened the session personally. 6 months ago, humanity left the Galactic Council because it valued politics over justice, Torres said. Today, we sit with species who have proven, through sacrifice and blood, that they understand what we tried to teach. This is not reconciliation. This is recognition. Over 3 days, they drafted a new charter. The Galactic Alliance for Justice and Peace. It included provisions the old council would never have accepted. Mandatory intervention against attacks on civilians, permanent oversight positions for founding members, including veto power. Complete transparency in all decisions, and one new clause. Written by Ambassador Richard Coleman himself. Any member species could immediately withdraw from the alliance if it failed to uphold core principles. Trust must be earned every single day. Chancellor Vex read the final clause and smiled sadly. "You are building in your own exit." "No," Coleman said. "We are building in accountability. If we fail you, you should leave. If you fail yourselves, we will leave." No one is trapped in a broken system. The representatives signed the charter. 15 species and humanity. Bound not by dependency but by shared values. The signing ceremony was broadcast across the galaxy. In occupied Valorian space, enslaved populations watched and dared to hope. In the old council's remnant territories, species that had refused to change saw what they had lost. After the ceremony, Torres and Vex stood together looking at Earth through the windows of the summit hall. "This is not the end of the Valorians," Vex said. "Zalth will come back with more ships, more weapons. The Alliance will face serious tests." "I know," Torres said. "But you will face them together. With clear principles and honest accountability. That is more than the galaxy has had in a long time." 8. Will Earth send military forces if the Valorians attack again? Torres considered the question carefully. The Alliance Charter includes mutual defense obligations. If the Valorians attack any member, they attack all of us. Yes, Chancellor. If you are attacked, Earth will stand with you. Not because you need us, but because you proved you deserve to stand beside us. Outside the summit hall, workers installed a memorial. A simple stone monument with names carved on every surface. 3,200 names. The children, teachers, farmers, and families who died on Meridian 7. At the bottom of the monument, an inscription. They died because justice was delayed. This alliance exists, so justice will never be delayed again. Dr. Marsh stood before the memorial, finding his daughter's name among the thousands. His hand trembled as he traced the letters. He would never forgive the Valorians, but he could honor her memory by helping build the future she believed in. The galaxy was still broken. Billions still suffered under Valorian occupation. The alliance was small and vulnerable. But for the first time in 6 months, the galaxy had hope. Hope that justice could triumph over power. Hope that principles could matter more than politics. Hope that species could stand together not because they needed each other, but because they chose to be worthy of each other. The old council was dead, killed by its own cowardice. In its place, something better had a chance to grow, and humanity, watching from Earth, would ensure it stayed better. Forever.